The Israeli Antiquities Authority uncovered the remains of a 1,500-year-old Byzantine church just outside of Jerusalem.
Wow, look at that! Oh, it's just coming to life. That's unbelievable. My brain is exploding right now.
It looks like it was written just a few hours ago.
It really does.
Every so often, the Earth gives up something so extraordinary that it feels like the past is reaching out and touching the present. That's exactly what happened near the shores of the Sea of Galilee, where archaeologists uncovered a discovery so rare and powerful that it sent shockwaves through the world of biblical history. It's the kind of moment that makes you pause and ask yourself how something this significant could remain hidden for more than 1,500 years. What rose from the soil wasn't just another ancient artifact. It was a secret directly connected to Jesus, spoken to one of his closest followers in a way no one ever expected. And once you learn what was found, you'll understand why the excavation team felt a chill run through them as the truth came to light. Before we go any further, please subscribe to our channel so you never miss discoveries as breathtaking as this one. I'm not a religious person and I'm not a Christian, but whenever Christians visit this place and I show them the inscriptions and the first century homes, I can feel the weight of their emotions. Our journey, a door reopened, stepping into ancient Bethsaida, begins at the quiet archaeological site of El-Araj, a place many scholars believe is the biblical city of Bethsaida, the hometown of the apostles Peter, Andrew, and Philip. For years, excavations here revealed only fragments of everyday life, pieces of pottery, ancient coins, and the remains of long-forgotten homes. But beneath those scattered traces, something far more significant was waiting to be uncovered. Before them stood the ruins of what was once a magnificent Byzantine church. A site tradition closely connects to St. Peter, the fisherman who would become a cornerstone of the early Christian faith. Bethsaida, mentioned several times in the Gospels, was far more than a simple fishing village. It was a place of miracles. It was here that Jesus healed a blind man, as recorded in Mark 8:22. It was also the home of men who would go on to become pillars of the early church. Standing here means breathing the same air, touching the same ground, and walking the very paths once taken by the earliest disciples. So, when archaeologists uncovered the threshold of this ancient structure, believed to be the Church of the Apostles, excitement rippled through the academic world. What would emerge from beneath its floor? What stories had been sleeping there for 1,500 years? The answers came slowly, but when they finally did, they shattered centuries of silence. Unearthing the Mosaic, an ancient voice, speaks again. As archaeologists carefully cleared away layers of hardened soil and debris, a breathtaking mosaic slowly came into view. Stones, still rich with their original colors, emerged from the ground like light breaking through darkness. The mosaic covered the diaconicon floor, a chamber traditionally used to store sacred vessels and vestments. But this was far more than decoration. It carried words carved with devotion, words meant to honor someone deeply cherished by the earliest Christians. It felt like a message deliberately preserved by time itself. The inscription read, "The entire work of paving the diaconicon with mosaic was completed through the zeal of Constantine, servant of Christ, in honor of the chief of the apostles and holder of the keys of the heavenly kingdom. St. Peter, intercede for him and his children." This was no casual dedication. It was a proclamation, a powerful declaration that this place was sacred to Peter, the apostle whom Jesus called the rock upon which his church would be built. And like a quiet echo rising from the past, the biblical words connected to this dedication came flooding back to life. "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Matthew 16:19. This verse marks one of the most powerful moments in the New Testament, a moment when Jesus speaks directly to Peter, granting him spiritual authority and appointing him as a leader among his followers. But here, in the dust of El-Araj, that moment was no longer just spiritual or symbolic. It had become physical, tangible, a message literally carved into stone. The mosaic's meaning, a testament of devotion. Why would a high-ranking Christian patron, likely a 6th century figure named Constantine, not to be confused with Constantine the Great, commission such a deliberate and reverent inscription? Why was this space dedicated specifically to Peter? The answer lies in how deeply the early church revered him. Peter was not only among the first to follow Jesus, he was the first to openly declare him as the Messiah, as recorded in Matthew 16:16. He was the disciple who stepped onto the water in an act of faith. He was the one who faltered, denying Jesus 3 times, and the one who was later forgiven and restored. Peter's life mirrors the human story itself, imperfect, courageous, broken at times, yet ultimately redeemed. Early Christians remembered this journey. More than that, they honored it. The words of the mosaic, chief of the apostles and holder of the keys of the heavenly kingdom, are titles of profound respect. They reflect how early believers viewed Peter as a channel through which spiritual authority flowed. By asking for Peter's intercession for himself and his children, Constantine expressed a belief shared by generations of Christians, that the saints remain alive in Christ and continue to participate in the spiritual life of the faithful. This inscription is not just historical, it is deeply devotional and emotional. It speaks of a bond between heaven and earth, between the living and the departed, between faith and the unseen mysteries that lie beyond our sight. Walking in the footsteps of the apostles. Imagine standing in that dimly lit chamber 1,500 years ago. Incense drifts slowly through the air as golden candlelight dances across the mosaic floor. Priests move quietly, preparing sacred vessels for the Eucharistic celebration. Every step is taken with reverence. Above it, all lingers the memory of Peter, not as a distant legend, but as a living presence. This was the setting in which the inscription was read, the words softly spoken, and the prayers offered. It was a sacred space where earth seemed to touch heaven, where believers felt deeply connected to the earliest foundations of their faith. And now, after centuries of silence, those same stones are speaking once more. The hidden layer. Was this the Church of the Apostles? For decades, scholars searched for the lost Church of the Apostles, a structure early pilgrims described as being built over the home of Peter and Andrew. Could the site at El Araj be that long-sought church? Slowly, the evidence began to align. Massive church walls, the architectural layout, the period in which it was built, and its dedication to Peter all matched descriptions found in early Christian writings. While research is still ongoing, many archaeologists now strongly believe that the mosaic and the church it belongs to stands directly above or very near the home of Peter himself. If this is true, then we are not merely reading words written in honor of Peter. We may be standing in the very place where Peter lived his daily life, where he prayed, reflected, and listened as Jesus spoke. The ground beneath our feet becomes sacred, not just in a symbolic sense, but in a historical one. This is no longer distant theology or abstract belief. It is memory anchored to a physical place. Stone, soil, and silence become witnesses to moments that shaped the course of history. Jesus' words to Peter. A legacy etched in time. The true beauty of this discovery lies not only in the artistry of the mosaic, but in the moment it represents. When Jesus spoke to Peter in Matthew 16:19, he was not handing him literal keys made of metal. He was entrusting him with responsibility, authority, and leadership. He was placing confidence in a flawed but faithful man, asking him to carry the weight of guiding others. Those words, first spoken on the dusty roads of Caesarea Philippi, did not fade with time. They traveled across lands and seas, through persecution and hardship, through the rise and collapse of empires. They survived wars, exile, and centuries of uncertainty. And eventually, they came to rest here, preserved in stone by believers who lived nearly 1,000 years after Peter's death. The mosaic stands as proof that the memory of that moment never disappeared. It was remembered, honored, and deliberately immortalized. Conclusion: the voice beneath the stones. As scholars continue to study the mosaic, deciphering its language, context, and meaning, its message only grows stronger. This is not merely the voice of Constantine, nor solely the work of Byzantine builders. It is something deeper. It is the echo of Jesus and Peter, the echo of their relationship, the echo of trust given, faith tested, and a legacy carried forward through time. For centuries, the earth kept this message hidden. It protected it, preserved it, waited patiently. And now, at the right moment, it has risen again. A whisper from beneath the dust, a reminder from the past calling us to look closer, listen more carefully, and remember. Because faith is not only written in sacred texts, it is carved into stone. It is buried beneath the ground. And it waits, again and again, to be uncovered. And that is the story of how archaeologists uncovered what may be Jesus' words to Peter, preserved beyond time itself. Words so powerful that even centuries of silence could not erase them.